In my past life, the campus belle got mad because my childhood friend and I walked home together. She deliberately darted across the road right in front of us, and just as she was about to be hit by a car, my childhood friend, Lin Sicheng, pulled his hand free from mine and rushed forward, intending to save her. I used all my strength to grab him from behind, holding him back and preventing him from running into the road too. The school beauty was hit by a car. And then her lower leg was run over by another truck that followed. Everything below her knee was practically pulp, and when she was rushed to the hospital, amputation was the only option. When she woke up, the school beauty was completely devastated. One night, she climbed to the rooftop and took her own life. After attending her funeral, I, who had stopped my childhood friend from saving the school beauty, became the enemy of the entire class. My childhood friend hurt me in the abandoned classroom, yelling, "I've never met anyone as selfish as you. What right do you have to stop me from saving Luoli?" One by one, the students who were close to the school beauty before she died came over, slapped me, and kicked me with all their might. The verbal abuse and violence lasted for over 5 hours. They locked me in the abandoned classroom and left. For 5 whole days, no one found a trace of me, and no one came back to save me. In the end, severely wounded, I died there of thirst and starvation. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the moment my childhood friend rushed to save the campus belle, seeing the familiar surroundings, then looking down at the clean, neat school uniform my mom had washed for me. Sicheng, danger, don't go. I wanted to stop him. Crossing the road is incredibly dangerous as it is, especially on such a busy stretch, right during rush hour when everyone's leaving work and school. But Lin Sicheng clearly wasn't going to heed my words. The campus beauty right in front of him was obviously more important than noisy me. With a determined look, he didn't even glance at me as he quickly hopped over the roadside barrier. Just beyond that was a bend in the road, and the stretch ahead was only a short distance from where their accident occurred. The reckless actions of the campus belle and her childhood friend caused the car closest to us to brake suddenly, leading to a collision with the vehicle behind it. The further away a car was on the other side, the slower it braked, making it impossible for the following vehicle to react in time, causing it to be hit and propelled forward by inertia. When the airbags deployed in the driver's seat, I remembered from my past life that 2 drivers had been knocked unconscious right there, in her fit of pique. Luoli had no idea that vehicles on the other side of the road, due to blind spots and inertia, would be completely unable to anticipate people suddenly rushing out, leading to this tragic, unavoidable outcome, a lifetime of regret. Lin Sicheng's immediate thought was to quickly push Luoli, the campus beauty from their class, to the other side of the sidewalk. This time, due to his hesitation, Lin Sicheng, who was pushing her, took Luoli's place and was hit by the vehicle, the impact throwing him onto the road. Luoli, who was now close to the other sidewalk, fell to the ground. With only minor scrapes, she frantically scrambled to safety, using all her strength to prop herself up. My childhood friend was hit by the car in front and fell to the ground. The car didn't slow down in time and ran over his hand first. He was enduring the intense pain, trying to crawl to the sidewalk. My pupils uncontrollably constricted and trembled. I had been reborn. The truck behind was too high to see anyone lying on the ground. How did she just run out there? That's so dangerous. The truck mercilessly ran over his legs. Lin Sicheng let out a horrific scream, and the truck driver, along with passers-by who witnessed it, also cried out in various panicked, short shouts. The familiar voice beside me belonged to Lin Sicheng, my childhood friend, and he looked panicked. On the road, shattered bones and flesh were splattered everywhere. His muscles tensed almost immediately, and he lifted his leg, ready to follow me across the road. His calf had been reduced to a flat, bloody pulp. It was rush hour, and cars flowed endlessly down the road like a river. Lori fainted, and several passers-by collapsed weakly onto the pavement, also overcome with shock. This time, I didn't try my hardest to hold on to my childhood friend, letting him stay on the safe sidewalk. I, too, feigned shock, foolishly kneeling on the sidewalk, my hands gripping my backpack straps tightly. I just held my breath, pulled down my philtrum, and widened my eyes as if startled, yet, deep down, I couldn't help but feel a surge of joy. As Lin Sicheng rushed out, I clenched my fist in the air and pretended to cry out in anguish. This time, it's my childhood friend's turn. I wonder if this misfortune will befall him. Will he genuinely thank me for not stopping it? My dad and Lin Sicheng's dad were high school classmates. He no longer walked with me or waited for me to go to school together. Every day, I'd bring 2 breakfasts to him. That day, my mom made beef and scallion steamed buns. Since I arrived later than him, I was worried they wouldn't taste as good once they got cold. He'd been having this kind of breakfast for over a year now. I don't know why Lin Sicheng suddenly changed. When he saw me standing there, frozen, Lin Sicheng lowered his head and focused on the problem. I blankly blurted out, "Weren't you perfectly happy eating it every day before?" Lin Sicheng's face hardened as he quickly retorted, "I never said I had to eat your breakfast. Your family is the one who keeps sending it over every day." Students passing by snickered, and Luoli was practically shaking with laughter. I thought he might have been telling the truth, but then I still heard him instinctively groan about being hungry, clutching his stomach during the third period. But after he rejected me, I ate all 4 buns myself and felt uncomfortably full for several classes. Lin Sicheng mouthed, "How stingy at me." And I told my mom about it when I got home. After hearing the whole story, my mom still told me to deliver it as usual, quietly adjusting the breakfast menu herself. But Luoli, the school beauty who sat in front of Lin Sicheng, didn't just avoid ginger, spring onions, and garlic. Every now and then, she'd say, "Ugh, I'm allergic to peanut butter. Don't eat that stuff in front of me. You guys are actually eating such greasy breakfast." I couldn't stomach a single bite. Lori's dream was to be an actress. She had studied dance and performance since childhood and had been on a strict diet for a long time. She had long developed an instinctive aversion to any food she disliked, or food she craved but couldn't eat. Several times, Lin Sicheng had casually taken a few bites of the breakfast my mom made before discarding it. Or, echoing Lori's words, mocked me for being fat and only caring about food. I'd been silently putting up with it, for the sake of our childhood friendship, until one time, he didn't even take a bite and just threw it directly into the classroom trash can. I was absolutely furious. I took pictures and sent them straight to Lin Sicheng's mom and my mom. Anger made my head spin. It was to defend my mom and all the humiliation that had built up over time. My parents kind of think I'm a bit impulsive and not very good at talking. Lin Sicheng also blamed me for getting him beaten by his parents after I told on him. From that day on, I no longer had to bring him breakfast. I don't know what Lin's parents said to him. Lin's parents were even stricter with him because he was a boy. His hatred for me was far more complex, laced with jealousy and resentment. And he'd wanted me gone for good for a long time. It's just that our parents were too kind. Even holding on to romanticized notions of young love, in this fast-paced era, competition is the most common dynamic for kids my age and Lin Sicheng's. I knew that jaywalking wasn't just dangerous for pedestrians. We were in our most crucial year of high school, senior year. I couldn't bear to see this peer, who had lived next door to me since childhood, lose his life or ruin his promising future. So I desperately tried to stop him, hugging him, pulling him, holding him back with all my might to keep him away from that dangerous situation. Lin Sicheng was momentarily flustered by my embrace, forgetting to struggle. He could only stare blankly as Luo Li's leg was crushed. I was so shocked by the sudden slap and the cruelty unfolding before my eyes that I just froze on the road. It was a kind aunt passing by who eventually helped me up and brushed the dust off my clothes. The next day at school, I heard the news that Lori had to have one of her legs amputated. Then Lin Sicheng pushed and verbally abused me in front of the entire class. Lin Sicheng seemed incredibly confident that as long as I didn't stop him, he could save Lori from the traffic. But it's already happened, and I acted according to my conscience, doing what I believed was right at the time. In the days that followed, photos from the accident scene and the video of me stopping Lin Sicheng from saving someone were uploaded online. Several classmates maliciously spread the word, especially Lin Sicheng, who, as the person involved, continuously twisted the facts. They shifted the focus to claim that I was jealous of Luo Li because I was in love with Lin Sicheng. Her grades weren't good enough to begin with, so her goal was to get into an art school early through the art entrance exam. Taking the regular college entrance exam would be incredibly difficult for her, especially with her physical disability. Several friends from other schools, who had already been accepted into art programs through early recruitment, were posting celebratory videos and selfies on their social media. As Lori's dreams completely shattered, she saw even girls who weren't as talented as her getting accepted. She had a complete emotional breakdown, thinking about living the rest of her life so incomplete. Late one night, she climbed to the hospital's rooftop and jumped, headfirst. Resuscitation attempts failed, and she died instantly. The next day, the entire class was informed of the news and was emotionally affected. 02, especially Lin Sicheng, whose gaze at me was filled with hatred and malice. I kept begging for mercy and apologizing, telling them the truth, but they still wouldn't let go of me, this selfish person. Lin Siqing repeatedly refuted me, saying, "It was you who stopped me from saving Luoli, otherwise she wouldn't be disabled, and she wouldn't have committed suicide." I never thought we'd end up living in the same neighborhood for so many years, practically bumping into each other all the time. I explained to him that anyone could have had an accident given the road conditions, so, our mothers became the best of friends. I didn't want Lin Siqing to risk his life too. Especially since the traffic police also determined that the accident was caused by her jaywalking. Lin Siqing and I, despite never really liking each other's personalities growing up, just got used to having each other around. During my senior year, a crucial time for college entrance exams, my homeroom teacher in my previous life had suggested I study at home. This was to prevent the trauma of witnessing the car accident from affecting my mental state and, consequently, my academic performance. Since our parents were neighbors, we spent a lot of time together, practically inseparable. It took countless tearful pleas and assurances to my parents and teachers before I was allowed back at school. To the adults, we were childhood sweethearts, innocent and inseparable. The truth was, having witnessed Lori's tragic accident firsthand, I had to sacrifice sleep and put in even more effort behind the scenes just to maintain my grades. When it was time for high school, I successfully got into the same one my mother had attended. Little did I know that by staying at school, I would become everyone's punching bag and target. Lin Siqing's parents were very busy, and my mom was a stay-at-home mother. I hugged them tightly, repeating over and over, "I won't walk home with Lin Siqing anymore. I'll stay far away from him from now on." At his mother's request, my mom would make an extra breakfast every day for me to take to him. Luoli was just being defiant. That's why they crossed the road together. My mom uses good ingredients, all natural, no artificial stuff or junk. I'll definitely stay far away from Lin Siqing from now on, and never go near him again, especially since it's for kids. My mom makes everything even more carefully and deliciously than what you'd find at school or in restaurants. My parents were absolutely terrified, and they slowly started to realize the gravity of the situation. Lin Siqing and I were always in a rush on our way to school, but he always ate with great satisfaction. After this accident, I can't be near the Lin family, especially Lin Siqing. Even in our second year of high school, we were still classmates in the same class. Otherwise, it will have a significant impact on my mental well-being. We studied science together, walked to and from school every day, taking the same route. The approval process takes 15 to 30 days. But then our class got a new student, Luoli, who was bright and beautiful. The campus belle. Since it was a special circumstance, my homeroom teacher approved my leave request on the spot. Soon, Lin Siqing's gaze was often fixed on Luoli. Luoli was already fed up. She'd been lectured multiple times by the traffic police, her teachers, and even her own parents about her reckless jaywalking. And now she had to face the Lin family's accusations. To go to school with Luoli, Lin Siqing started waking up even earlier than me, losing her temper. She retorted, "He's the one who insisted on saving me. I never asked him to run into the street too." They started arguing, and it took several attempts by the hospital nurses to calm them down. Faced with the tense situation, my parents, fearing I'd get upset again, just said a quick hello and hurried me home. At that moment, I secretly wondered how ridiculous it would be if Lin Siqing woke up and realized his goddess didn't appreciate his efforts at all. How ridiculous would that be? Perhaps it was her inner turmoil and the accident that affected her. Luoli cried many times, and both her parents and Lin's parents urged her to visit Lin Siqing more often in the hospital. After the accident, just like in her previous life, the incident quickly went viral online due to Lori's beauty. While official news reports blurred her face, many passers-by at the scene took photos and posted them directly on Xiaohongshu and Weibo. After handing it to him, I added a reminder. To make her appear more sympathetic, her parents also stayed for over 2 weeks, acting as if they were severely injured in the car crash. "It's beef and green onion filling today, eat up." During this time, influencer agencies had already approached them, planning to take a controversial, stormy route to fame, but the lowly suddenly looked at the bun in front of me with a disdainful and disgusted expression. After Lin Siqing finished speaking to his parents, he looked at Lori, whose eyes were red, and said, thinking he was being cool, "I'm glad you're okay. I won't regret this." She casually remarked, "I absolutely hate strong-smelling things like onions and garlic. How can you even eat that?" My mother and I visited them then, and we saw Lori skillfully press the record button on her phone. Lynn Sicken, who had been flustered by my smile, then offered a small smile to the little girl. They talked a lot during their time in the hospital together, suing. "Take that away, don't gross her out." Many times, Lynn Sichen would reluctantly part ways with her, and Lori would still have that perfect, charming smile of a campus queen, protected. Lori flashed a sweet smile, which made Lynn Sichen's eyes tremble slightly, but those people wouldn't let her off the hook. They pulled her into a few small group chats, demanding to know what was going on. I stood there awkwardly, feeling a bit lost. I took a look and saw the messages Luoli herself had sent to the small group, along with a few lines from Lynn Sichen, personally stating he didn't regret saving her. That got Luoli off the hook from her classmates' accusations of being reckless and causing harm. She even remembered to pull me into the group and at me to help her answer. They asked if I had personally witnessed Lynn Sichen voluntarily rushing out. She and Lynn Sichen had a certain kind of magnetic pull. A shared darkness that drew them together. After a long while, I vaguely replied, "Sichen." Sigh, Lori must have been terrified, and I couldn't stop him. Someone below posted, "Sichen loves Lori, and I can't stop him." It was so childish, like elementary school kids, with several people copying and pasting the exact same message. My mom patted my shoulder and said, "Studying at home isn't like being at school with a dedicated learning environment. You need to be highly self-disciplined." From that day on, I reduced how often I checked my phone and focused more on my studies. However, the Lynn family lived right next door, so I couldn't help but hear about some of the things that happened after Lynn Sichen's accident. During dinner and our family's evening chats, my parents would always keep me completely in the loop. "If I get into that school, aren't you two coming with me?" My dad, ever the pragmatist, said, "If you can get in, then your mom and I will gladly follow." But he'd already opened a real estate app for City A and started browsing floor plans. My mom, always on my side, chimed in, "It doesn't matter where Suga gets in, your mom and I will go wherever you go." Thinking about the horrific way I died in my previous life, I can't even begin to imagine how devastated my parents would be if they found out I was abused to death. Lynn Sichen and his accomplices will face legal consequences after my death, but since I've been reborn, I need to make him personally experience the painful consequences of not intervening, to prevent the tragedy that might befall me. Even though the grief from the accident has reduced the contact between our two families, one day, the caregiver had an urgent family matter and needed to take half a day off. My mom got a really long call from Auntie Lynn, practically begging her to look after Lynn Sichen for half a day. Our family and the Lyns had a big falling out back in Sichen's second year of high school, all because he threw away my mom's breakfast. Auntie Lynn wouldn't have bothered my mom unless she was truly desperate. After that incident, Auntie Lynn was even more hesitant to invite my mom over. Lori is going out of town to participate in an early in-person recruitment exam. Unlike her short-lived previous life, she's now posting various beautiful photos on her social media. This time around, she got involved with an influencer agency early on, and professional 9-grid photo sets are posted online regularly. Lynn Sichen became incredibly despondent. During that time, he would sometimes relieve himself wherever he pleased. The caregiver and his mother would come to clean up, change his pants, and help him bathe, all without showing any emotion. Even expressions of sadness or sympathy would send Lynn Sichen into a furious rage. In just one semester, they went through 7 or 8 professional caregivers. He was afraid of socializing, afraid to go out, and strongly resisted the teacher's home visits. He was even more reluctant to see his classmates during monthly and mock exams, always feeling that they looked down on him and would secretly mock him behind his back. Uncle Lynn's occasional stern words only made him feel more humiliated. Gradually, he started to think, if it weren't for saving Luoli, if Luoli hadn't tried to cross the road herself, I guess the events of my past life still unfolded, but this time I didn't die, and Lori was rescued in time, saving a life. I've finally moved past the incident from my previous life that truly haunted me. After the college entrance exam, media and netizens occasionally recognized me, some even hoping to interview me. But I'm just someone whose grades dropped and became emotionally unstable after being traumatized by a neighbor's child getting seriously injured in a car accident. A regular kid who, against all odds, aced the Gaokao, got into their dream university, and is now moving to the big city with their parents. Having achieved their dream, I blurted out a few things. Auntie Lynn, please see for yourself how Lynn Sichen treated the breakfast my mom made for him. He threw it away without even taking a bite, and then mocked me with his classmates. As if I was forcing him to eat it every day. It's bad enough that Lin Xiqing's grades are usually poor, but he's also so ungrateful. My mom works so hard to make him breakfast, and I bring it to him every day. Is this how he repays our family? From then on, the way Lin Xiqing looked at me was filled with intense hatred. I don't think he was just avenging the campus queen. My grades had always been better than his, and my family life was more harmonious in my previous life. Before they beat me up, I heard one of them say, "Suing, do you think getting into the top 10 in the whole school is something to be proud of?" Which led me to completely overlook how dangerous Lin Xiqing was, right there beside me. 3. In his past life, Lin Xiqing's desire to save Luoli was, to some extent, driven by a hero complex, completely disregarding the potential harm this could cause, not just to himself but also to other normal vehicles on the road. The people in those cars were also someone's father, someone's daughter, and so on. Hearing Lori's sharp cry of pain, he was furious. He ducked his head, broke free from my grasp, and then turned around and slapped me so hard that I fell to the ground, nose bleeding and lip split. It took a while for the passers-by across the street to react, but then they quickly started dragging Lori to a safer spot. They then pulled out their phones to call 911 and 999. While Lin Xiqing ran to the crosswalk ahead and crossed to the other side, his few words swayed the classmates around him, leading them to believe Luoli herself had darted into the road, that morphed into me disregarding her life and death, stopping Lin Xiqing from saving Luoli, who had accidentally run into the road. He looked at me with disdain. "Suing, I know you've liked me since we were kids, but you can't be this selfish." At that moment, I regretted it. I had stopped Lin Xiqing from saving Luoli. Rational netizens would comment that jaywalking is asking for trouble, and then they'd be called cold-blooded and heartless. I was cyberbullied, and then extreme netizens found me at my school and verbally abused me in person. At school, my entire class started to ostracize and bully me. As the college entrance exam approached, after Luoli woke up, she gradually began to try taking the regular exam. From that day on, I prayed every day, silently wishing I could go back to that specific day. If I could, I swear I wouldn't stop Lin Xiqing, because Lin Xiqing led the charge in isolating me. I wore headphones every day, numbing myself with endless practice problems. My grades weren't affected in the slightest. In fact, they even improved. Several of Luoli's friends, who were originally top students, also saw their rankings drop. After school, they took me to a classroom in the abandoned teaching building. They knew exactly what was going on, but out of loyalty, they ganged up and beat me, subjecting me to all sorts of malicious bullying and humiliation. Lin Xiqing's eyes were bloodshot as he roared at me, "How dare you score so well? Are you trying to get yourself killed? A girl getting such high marks? You people have no idea how hard we work." I lay on the ground, silently enduring the rain of fists and kicks. So that's how it is. Luoli's death was just an excuse for them. Lin Xiqing never wanted me to live. He didn't even want me to have a chance to take the college entrance exam. The other students around were also looking to eliminate a competitor, with a valid excuse. Of course, they had to ruin what they considered the most reasonable thing. Eventually, they all had their own things to do and left one by one. Meanwhile, Lin Xiqing continued to viciously beat me for over 5 hours. I don't know how I got through it, starting with those agonizing screams. By the end, I couldn't even make a sound. Seeing me unconscious, Lin Xiqing, now calm, was filled with dread. He closed the door and barricaded the entrance with a discarded chair. Lying on my cold floor, I slowly lost all sensation. Given a second chance at life, I decided to fight back, faking illness and manipulating my scores. I'm curious to see what becomes of those inherently malicious people. What kind of lives will they lead when my ranking suddenly drops? 4. This time, the car accident Lin Xiqing was in was even more horrific than in his previous life. The truck driver quickly got out to check on the situation, and other drivers nearby also stopped and exited their vehicles, waiting for the traffic police. Vehicles behind, unaware of what was happening, kept honking their horns repeatedly. The crowd on the road was in a panic, and I quickly collapsed onto the pavement. I let out a gut-wrenching wail at the 2 figures on the ground. As if my mind had been severely traumatized. Just like in my previous life, there was a kind aunt nearby, and my grandma held me, my eyes red from crying, constantly reassuring me not to be scared. Hearing my cries, Lin Xiqing, whose face was contorted in pain, also noticed my breakdown. Lori slowly came to her senses, cautiously trying to approach Lin Sicheng from a safe distance, but fear still flickered across her pale, anxious face. I screamed hysterically at them. "It's all your fault, Lori. Why did you jaywalk? Do you have any idea what Sicheng sacrificed to save you? If something happens to Sicheng, what will become of his family? He's his parents' only son." "Fine, I'll never walk home with Sicheng again. I'll stay away from him for the rest of my life. Are you happy now?" Everyone around heard it loud and clear, quickly concluding it was an accident stemming from a high school love triangle. Lori stood up, wanting to defend herself, but no words came out. It was true. Seeing Lin Sicheng and me walking home together, a rare sight, especially for someone like her who had always been doted on by boys, faced with the prospect of her most loyal and handsome admirer leaving her, she deliberately threw a tantrum and made that joke, hoping to make Lin Sicheng feel she was more important. Her fair skin was covered in scrapes and bleeding. As an aspiring actress, her appearance was her most prized possession, even as she was being rushed to the hospital. She kept asking people for mirrors and phones. At the hospital, the Lin family parents arrived and burst into tears upon hearing the news. Auntie Lin was heartbroken when she heard Lin Sicheng would need an amputation. She cried hysterically, wishing she could bear the pain for her child. Uncle Lin silently wiped away his tears, casting several cold glances at Luo Li, the girl his son had risked his life to save. I was so startled that even when my parents arrived and held me, I couldn't stop trembling and crying, my face streaked with tears and snot. The teachers who rushed over from school saw my condition and frowned. They exchanged worried glances, thinking about how a promising student might just be ruined like this. In the end, I was subjected to fatal abuse, instigated by Lin Sicheng and fueled by the jealousy of those around me. This time, after a moment of contemplation, my teacher suggested I homeschool. I silently shed tears and nodded. My mom, her eyes red, gently brushed the stray hairs from my forehead. "You've always been such an easy child, never causing any worry. You must have been truly terrified this time." My dad sighed. "Susu, don't be scared. Your mom and I will support you homeschooling. Remind me to complete my monthly reports and regular home visits while I'm at home." And reminded my parents to supervise my study progress and ensure I attend the monthly school exams and necessary mock tests. My parents took me to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation, and only then did they drag me to say goodbye to Lin's parents. Lin Sicheng was still in surgery, fighting for his life. His parents sat on chairs outside, overwhelmed with grief. Raleigh, looking utterly bewildered, was shielded by her parents as they apologized on her behalf. Lin Sicheng must have mentioned Raleigh to his parents, which explained the confusion in Raleigh's eyes. She was somewhat at a loss to understand the undisguised resentment and coldness in the Lin parents' eyes towards her. Even though her parents had made her apologize and agreed to cover the surgery costs, they were still so angry. 5. His pant legs, from the thigh down, lay flat on the hospital bed, and one sleeve of his gown was empty. "Lori, are you crying for me?" When Lin Sicheng woke up, he saw Lori in tears before him. His first words were to confirm his heroic deeds with Lori, hoping to make the foolish accident seem less pathetic, completely ignoring the agitated Lin family parents beside them. Auntie Lin recalled the hurtful words Lori had said after their argument with her family. "You know stop talking." Uncle Lin cut her off. He didn't want his son to wake up and realize he had saved someone who wasn't genuinely grateful. Lori's injuries weren't actually severe, mostly scrapes and a sprained ankle. What she needed more was to calm down from the fear of witnessing the car accident up close. As an art student, once Luoli recovers from her injuries and attends the on-site admissions, she's bound to attract a lot of cameras and media attention. Lin Sicheng, having just woken up from the car accident, had no idea what was going on. He was still basking in the glory of having saved the campus beauty. Lin Sicheng harbored some unrealistic fantasies, imagining that Luoli might offer herself to him, dedicating her life to repaying his kindness. He quickly interjected, "Dad, Mom, please don't blame Luoli. I was the one who wanted to save her." I guess Lori must have recorded a lot of Lin Sicheng's willing words to save her. After she returned to school early, I quickly learned about the impact of those recordings from our class's group chat. Many of Lin Sicheng's good buddies from class, out of loyalty, went to ask Lori what was going on. Lori initially didn't want to go to school, so she applied for a leave of absence to self-study, preparing for the art entrance exam half a year earlier than other art students. To protect her reputation, Lori even claimed she was already close to the other side of the road, implying that even if Lin Sicheng hadn't saved her, she probably wouldn't have been seriously hurt. I know Lori is actually quite mean. From little things like turning up her nose at my breakfast to forcibly borrowing other classmates' umbrellas when it looked like rain, only the boys in our class, like a bunch of simps, thought she was a particularly good girl. For her, being selfish and twisting the facts after an accident is a form of self-preservation. 6. After Lin Sicheng started high school, his parents' work schedules became very demanding. His family had no choice but to hire a caregiver for him, taking over themselves after work. Due to a traumatic experience, I had to be homeschooled. At a time like that, my parents naturally prioritized their own, so they weren't about to rush off to take care of someone else's child. At home, my parents still need to supervise me according to the study schedule set by the teacher, and prepare a detailed report on my progress for the teacher's regular home visits. However, after I intentionally kept my scores low on the monthly exam, my parents still looked quite worried. They didn't dare to say, "How come you did so well on the past papers at home, but your grades dropped at school?" They only mentioned it briefly. I was just pretending to be fragile on the surface, but in reality, I was constantly urging my parents to look at houses in City A. When my mom brought this up, she was so careful, worried I'd get emotional just hearing Lin Sicheng's name. I put on a pitiful, scared act. "Mom, please come home early. I just can't go over there." My mom was heartbroken, even though she sympathized with what happened to the neighbor's kid. My own monthly exam scores took a direct hit. Taking tests at home, in a familiar environment, was fine, but as soon as I got to school, I'd just fall apart. That made them resent Lin Sicheng quite a bit. My mom had just arrived that day when she ran into Lori. Turns out, Lin Sicheng had also called Lori over. After asking around, my mom figured Auntie Lin was just following Lin Sicheng's instructions. He'd called Lori first, and after being strung along for over an hour, unsure if she'd show up, he finally called my mom. Lori had been called away from her art exam prep class on short notice, so she was a bit annoyed. It was only because of the life-saving favor, and the fact that Lin Sicheng was difficult to deal with and he feared gossip, that he still came. They still arrived a bit late. After entering, he was about to exchange a few customary pleasantries when Lin Sicheng suddenly frowned, his body subtly twisting uncomfortably. He needed to use the restroom, but his pride wouldn't allow him to say it out loud in front of Luoli. Lin Sicheng wouldn't want my mom, a stranger, to personally help him take off his pants. Luoli was actually very reluctant, muttering to herself about having to attend recruitment exams and how she wouldn't be able to visit often anymore. She even brought up my homeschooling with my mom, who, with a worried expression, told them a few words about my declining grades, which concerned them greatly. Luoli exclaimed dramatically, "Oh my God, Suing used to be so good at school, what are we going to do now?" My mom sighed several times. "There's nothing we can do, we can't force her to go to school. Maybe she'd just be reminded of how well Sicheng used to do in class and feel secretly sad." Lori tried to comfort my mom. "Talking nonsense. Maybe she'll do better if she takes the college entrance exam at a different school." My mom's brows furrowed. "What can I say? I hope so. Her grades have dropped so much, even her teachers are worried. They said some of the boys who were originally unremarkable are now outperforming her." Lori had clearly been somewhat brainwashed by others' malicious comments. "Oh, Auntie Sue, when I was little, I also heard that girls couldn't outperform boys in high school, which is why I chose to pursue art. Suing is quite pretty too. It's a shame she's not going down that path." Lin Sicheng, having heard what he wanted to hear, was even less inclined to interrupt my mother's worrying. As they were talking, Lin Sicheng suddenly struggled on the sofa, trying to get to his wheelchair, but he wanted to hear everything they were saying about me, intending to relay it all clearly to his parents. By the time they realized what was happening and unskillfully pushed him to the restroom, in a moment of panic, a strong stench and viscous, unknown matter dripped down his pant leg. There were several mysterious bulges behind Lin Sicheng's backside. A little while later, damp stains started seeping through the front of his pants. He had an accident right in front of his crush, Lori, and my mom. A foul odor permeated the air, lingering stubbornly. My mom's head turn, coupled with Lori's disgusted frown and wide-eyed stare at him, it deeply wounded Lin Sicheng's sensitive and fragile heart. After his initial embarrassment, he lashed out in an uncontrolled rage. "Get out, I don't need you here." My mom was about to open her mouth to calm him down, but his fierce glare scared her quite a bit. Lori couldn't hide the disgust on her face. At that moment, my mom, with her kind demeanor, was much more approachable than the enraged and agitated Lin Sicheng. After she pulled my mom out, she said at the doorway. "Auntie, just ignore him, no good deed goes unpunished, let's go." After Lori and my mom left, angry shouts and the sound of things being smashed came from inside the Lin family's house. 7. She also received a lot of sympathy donations during her live stream after the accident. On screen, she was all smiles, her exquisite makeup only enhancing her beauty. As if the horrific car accident that day had nothing to do with her, the Lin family next door couldn't control Lin Sicheng. His right hand was injured, so he had to take his exams with his unfamiliar left hand. His grades plummeted drastically, and it pained them deeply, but they couldn't bring themselves to mention it. Gradually, he grew to resent Luo Li, who kept appearing in his WeChat moments and on his screen. My deliberate avoidance, and the way I'd hide whenever I saw him in the neighborhood, it also deprived Lin Sicheng of the chance to confide in his peers. Honestly, I got tired of pretending after a while, and my emotions became much more stable. In my most recent official mock exam, I stopped holding back and performed exceptionally well. My homeroom teacher was so pleased that she called my parents, and at the dinner table, my dad showed me a house. In the eyes of my parents and teachers, I had finally overcome my psychological barriers, and getting into a top university was within reach. He had genuinely found the perfect house for me in City A, and my mom hugged me, promising to pay the deposit as soon as I got accepted. Once the college entrance exam results are out, our whole family will move there as soon as possible, and we'll continue our happy life together. That day, in both the class group chat and smaller chats, they started discussing, "Lori is missing. Has anyone seen Lori?" She came back to school, happily told us she'd passed the recruitment exam early, and then suddenly disappeared that afternoon. Someone shrewdly guessed, "Lin Sicheng is suddenly back at school, could it be him?" I think I'm probably the only one who knows where Luo Li might be. 8. If one person pays a huge price for another, the recipient of that favor can easily be held hostage. Even in the eyes of the benefactor, I don't deserve happiness, I can't be happy. Even if I catch a small break, I can never be luckier than those who've helped me. Yet, Rory, who also personally experienced the tragedy of that accident, has been doing incredibly well lately. After seeing the message, I immediately called the homeroom teacher and told them Rory might be in the abandoned classroom. Lin Sicheng had mentioned that location to me before. The next morning, the class group chat exploded. By the time the homeroom teacher arrived at the abandoned teaching building with other teachers, Luo Li was being bullied by them, and the metal baseball bat Lin Sicheng held while sitting in his wheelchair was covered in blood. Several boys from the class were involved in this incident. Luo Li's screams echoed through the abandoned classroom. Their actions were extremely malicious, leading to their expulsion from school, and prison awaited them. That's all there is to it. The end. Story 2. Ever since I was old enough to understand, I knew I could never live for myself. I was born as my parents' bargaining chip to curry favor with the powerful Fu family in the capital. In my sophomore year, my parents transferred me to the high school where Fu Yi attended. They wanted me to win Fu Yi's favor and stand out among all the arranged marriage candidates to become the Fu family's daughter-in-law. But back then, Fu Yi already had a girl by his side. I watched as Fu Yi softened his usually carefree gaze before her, pressing a reverent kiss to her forehead. I witnessed the blazing youth Fu Yi shared with that girl, scenes that remained vivid even after I married him. I understood. What I possessed was merely the boy who'd shone brightly in someone else's youth, so when given a second chance, I chose to fight back. 1. I applied a bandage to the wound on my neck. Only then did I turn to look at the villa complex behind me, smiling with relief. Reborn anew, the first thing I did was threaten to kill myself, to force my parents to stop scheming against me, though it ultimately came at a heavy price, trading my freedom for a contract to repay their child-rearing expenses of $1 million before turning 30. Thankfully it worked out in the end, though they'll withdraw all their investments in me, but they'll still cover my basic living expenses until high school graduation. After that, I'll be fully responsible for all college tuition and living costs. Sitting in the classroom, I truly felt the tangible reality of being reborn. My gaze drifted toward the figure seated diagonally ahead, Fu Yi. Just then, a cool breeze from the window billowed through his oversized white school uniform shirt. The boy radiated an irrepressible youthful energy. A carefree smile played on his lips, his eyes softening with tenderness. Yet all these expressions were reserved solely for the girl beside him. Tang Mengyue wasn't just Fu Yi's deskmate, she was still his girlfriend, the perfect match. They'd been the school's golden couple since freshman year, the envy of everyone. Even when the school initially tried to intervene, But they were simply too brilliant. Their relationship never affected their academic performance, so the school tacitly accepted the situation. They even used it as motivation for other students. Want to date? Fine, just outscore Fu Yi and Tang Mengyue as a couple. But who could have predicted, those deeply in love young sweethearts still ended up apart. Instead, it was me, the peeping Tom lurking in the shadows, who got lucky. I even felt secretly pleased for a while, but after marriage, Fu Ye's coldness towards me, even when we shared a bed at night, he still acted like he was just fulfilling an obligation. It suddenly dawned on me, the truth was, even though I had him, he wasn't the radiant boy who shone in my youth anymore. I'd fought with Fu Yi over this. Cried my heart out. I even steeled my heart to file for divorce, but he refused, saying he'd fulfill his duties as a husband. When faced with my unreasonable tantrums, he'd only respond with silence. My time at home keeps getting shorter. I practically live at the office now. I'm slowly losing myself in self-pity, growing gloomier by the day, until one fateful day, when Fu Yi was driving me to the hospital for a checkup, we got into a car accident. The moment that out-of-control truck came barreling toward us, in that moment, I felt no fear at all, only a strange sense of relief. The violent impact when the cars collided knocked me unconscious instantly. In my dazed state, I vaguely saw Fu Yi cradling my bloodied body, weeping uncontrollably, but I quickly dismissed the thought. I thought self-mockingly, why would Fi ever shed tears for me? When I opened my eyes again, I'd assumed I'd miraculously survived. Never did I expect to be reborn straight back into my high school years. Watching the figures leaning against each other ahead, the last lingering thought in my heart completely dissolved. Perhaps there's another way to live my youth. 2. Jian Sui, are you sure about this? In the office, my homeroom teacher stared at me with a grave expression. Even after seeing me nod, she still seemed puzzled. You do excel in science, but weren't you always adamant about choosing liberal arts? What made you change your mind all of a sudden? I hung my head. The liberal arts track had been forced on me by the Jian parents, all because Fu Ye's crush, Tang Mengyue, was in the arts stream. Their thinking was quite simple. Now that Fu Yi has a girlfriend, if I want to win Fu Ye's affection, I just need to mimic his current girlfriend. Having been reborn, I naturally don't need to follow their plans anymore. I looked up and smiled at my homeroom teacher, because the sun came up. Though it sounded rather nonsensical, but when I chose to return to science stream, my teacher was genuinely pleased. After the first year high school vacation ended, I had chosen the science track. The new semester would soon bring class reassignments. On the final day of the break, I went to the barbershop, got rid of the long hair and heavy bangs, switched to a shoulder-length bob. Hey, you've got great fashion sense, kid. That short cut perfectly suits your face shape, so much more elegant now. After finishing my haircut, Tony the stylist lavished compliments while looking at my reflection in the mirror. Seeing my refreshed look in the mirror, I smiled with satisfaction. First day back from vacation, classmates immediately gathered around, staring at me with amazed expressions. Jian Sui, you cut your long hair. The short hair looks amazing on you. Totally different vibe, right? Like that badass female scientist from zombie movies. The chattering voices of classmates caught the attention of Fu Yi, who'd been resting his eyes at the front desk. He merely cast a casual glance over his shoulder before turning away. My parents' wish for me to marry into the Fu family is nothing but their own wishful thinking. Our family isn't even in a position to speak with the Fuss as equals now. Even getting information about Fu Ye's school took them considerable effort. So even though I was fed a lot of information about Fu Ye's preferences since childhood, I've never actually interacted with him. To Fu Yi, I'm just a complete stranger, and that suits me perfectly. It's best if we remain strangers. High school life passed in the blink of an eye. Before I knew it, I was already a sophomore. During freshman year, I thoroughly reviewed the knowledge gaps from my past studies. Now I've finally regained my previous academic standing. In my past life, my science grades consistently ranked within the top 10 of my grade before class streaming, but now, with the advantage of my past memories, I'd broken into the top 5 academically. Even during sophomore year's opening exams, I actually made it to second place at one point. Only Fu Yi managed to stay ahead of me. Damn, brother Yi, your top ranking might be in jeopardy. This Jian Sui is actually in your class, right? Are you close with her? A crowd of students gathered around the honor roll to check the rankings. I happened to overhear Fu Ye's conversation with his friend. After Fu Ye's friend finished speaking, Fu Yi didn't respond immediately, just stared blankly at the scores on the honor roll. There was only a 5-point gap between us. He kept staring for over a minute before finally turning away, tossed a casual "we're not close" to his friend, during a math class shortly after the start of sophomore year. The math teacher gave us an Olympiad-level problem. It served as a qualifying test for the math competition team. I'd been wanting to join math competitions ever since choosing the science track. After all, only by climbing higher can I truly expand my horizons. That's what adds a fresh hue to my youth. Problem after problem, until the very last one, the practice questions alone filled the entire blackboard. Just as the whole class fell silent, I raised my hand, solved the problem flawlessly. The classroom instantly erupted in chaos. 3. Holy crap, Jian Sui's a legend. Even Fu Yi couldn't crack this problem. At this rate, Jian Sui overtaking Fu Yi for the top spot in our grade is practically a done deal. Seriously, Jian Sui's improvement is insane. She's radiating such academic goddess energy now. My sapiosexuality is acting up. Sapiosexuality my ass, you just think Jian Sui's hot. The classmates were bantering back and forth when suddenly someone blurted out, "Hey. Do you think Jian Sui and Fu Yi would make a good couple? They're both really good looking and top students too." Hard to say, even though we're all classmates, but I've never seen Jian Sui and Fu Yi interact. They don't even seem to talk to each other. Besides, Fu Yi already has a girlfriend. Look at Fu Yi's girlfriend, she's nothing like Jian Sui. He probably doesn't go for that type. No worries, I'm into someone like our Jian Sui. Get lost. Do you really think Jian Sui would even look your way? I overheard all the classmates gossip, but inwardly, I just smiled faintly. It didn't bother me in the slightest. While working on the competition problems, I failed to notice Fu Yi in front turning to glance at me with an inscrutable expression. The eve of the competition coincided with midterm exams, and it was during these very midterms I surpassed Fu Yi to claim the top spot in science subjects. My classmates witnessed this moment and showered me with congratulations. After expressing my gratitude to each of them, my thoughts turned to tomorrow's competition. The preliminary and provincial rounds were already behind me. Now the grand finale would take me overseas. Both Fu Yi and I were seeded competitors in this tournament. Our beaming math teacher led our team abroad as the faculty advisor. The day of finals arrived. All those sleepless nights pulling 4-hour rests finally paid off. The rest of the time was spent practicing competition problems. In mathematics, natural talent is ultimately what matters most, but hard work should never be underestimated. I don't consider myself particularly gifted. I just want to be someone who gives their all. So when I won the gold medal in the competition, my heart swelled with pride. Pride in having truly changed myself. Pride in having grown to reach this point. At the judges' panel, I finally saw the elder I'd long wished to meet, Mr. Tang. "I'd like to become your student." Summoning my courage, I made the request right there at the awards ceremony. The old gentleman paused, then looked at me with unmistakable appreciation in his eyes. "Do you have a passion for aerospace?" I nodded vigorously. The old man smiled and then gave me his contact information, saying I could come directly to him when I was ready. That's why I'm competing, to secure early admission by sophomore year, so I can move to Beijing as a junior and study advanced coursework with the professors. Plus, I'll be able to start earning money earlier to repay the million I owe the Jian family. My math teacher patted my shoulder with a wistful expression. "Jian Sui, this path won't be easy, you know, with such lofty aspirations. You have my full support as your teacher." After the competition ended, I gave it my all to accomplish what I set out to do, met the person I wanted to see, and shared my ambitions with them. Everything is unfolding exactly as I envisioned, and I couldn't be happier. Feeling completely at ease, I wandered the foreign streets for hours. As dusk fell, I strolled back to the hotel, needing to rise early tomorrow for my return flight. Just as I reached the hotel entrance, I spotted Fu Yi standing there. He seemed to be waiting for someone, but I didn't inquire further. After all, as my classmates said after being reborn, I genuinely don't know him well. I was just about to pretend I hadn't seen him and walk right past, but he stopped me, startled. I looked up and met his fathomless gaze. "The teacher noticed you hadn't returned, so they sent me to check." He explained his purpose, and I nodded in sudden understanding, apologizing sheepishly. "Sorry, I lost track of time while wandering around. You've had a long day, go get some rest. We've got an early start tomorrow." With that, I turned to leave, but before I could take 2 steps, someone grabbed my wrist. Startled, I turned back to see Fu Yi looking at me with confusion. "Is there something else?" Fu Yi remained silent, just staring at me with an intensity one couldn't decipher. his eyes swirling with unreadable emotions. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. Do we have some kind of grudge between us? I was completely baffled by why he'd ask such a thing. I shook my head. No. Then why have you been avoiding me? Fi stared straight at me, his eyes brimming with curiosity, for the question caught me off guard. Instinctively, I tried to pull my wrist back, but his grip only tightened. The boy's palm was warm, rough with calluses, his grip oddly forceful. I'm not avoiding you. I kept my voice deliberately calm. We were never close to begin with. Nothing left to say. That much was true. In our past life, we only lasted until marriage. We'd never exchanged more than 50 proper words between us. He was always preoccupied with the Fu family affairs. I kept trying to figure out how to please him, yet we remained like parallel lines never meant to meet. They shared the same roof, yet never truly connected. Fi's brows knitted together. The streetlight cast a faint shadow across his aquiline nose. Strangers. He repeated those two words with an indescribable tone. We've been sitting in the same classroom for nearly 2 years since freshman year. You don't even say hello when we meet. Last time in front of the honor roll, when my friend asked who you were, I actually couldn't answer. I remained silent. How could I tell him I'd seen how he loved someone else in a past life, knowing I was just a stand-in? I kept my distance this time around. During the competition, the auxiliary line method you used for the final problem, he abruptly changed the subject, his gaze settling on my face. It's a method I used in my middle school competition class. Nobody knew about it except my teacher back then. My heart skipped a beat. I found it in an old notebook while cleaning his study during what feels like a past life. I naively kept notes about it for the longest time. I thought it might come in handy someday, something we could talk about. Never imagined it would actually be useful at a time like this. Just a coincidence, I guess. I looked away, avoiding his gaze. I've seen similar problems while practicing. He stared at me for a few seconds before suddenly releasing his grip. Maybe, turning away, he walked toward the hotel, his voice drifting faintly behind him. Get some rest. Don't be late for tomorrow's flight. I stood there watching his figure disappear through the revolving door before finally letting out a sigh of relief. My palms were damp with sweat I hadn't noticed forming, and the warmth of his grip still lingered on my wrist. Back in my room, I collapsed onto the bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. Fu Ye's behavior today was so strange. Why would he suddenly care whether I'd been avoiding him? Was it because I took his spot as the top student in our grade? Or was it about that problem's solution? I racked my brains but still couldn't figure out why. I simply pulled out the reading list Mr. Tang gave me after the competition and got completely absorbed after just 2 pages. The knowledge of aerospace is like a vast sea of stars. Once you dive in, nothing else seems to matter. Life returned to normal after coming back home. 5. Every day was spent attending classes, grinding through practice problems, and camping out at the library, with occasional part-time jobs for pocket money. The early admission slots for senior year have been finalized. As long as I maintain my current grades, I'll be heading to Beijing next year without a hitch. Jane's parents called me twice. Their tone was probing, asking if I'd reconsider choosing liberal arts. They mentioned the Fu family was expanding into new ventures, and a daughter-in-law with humanities background would fit better. I hung up immediately, and they never called again. Tang Mengyue actually reached out to me once. That day after school, she stopped me at the entrance of the teaching building. She was wearing a pink dress with her hair cascading down her shoulders, looking gentle and lovely. Jian Sui, could I talk with you for a moment? I froze for a second, wondering why Tang Mengyue had approached me, but I nodded anyway and followed her to the camphor tree by the playground. Do you have feelings for Fu Yi? She got straight to the point, her eyes glinting with wariness. I was taken aback, confused. Why would you ask that? I barely even know him. Did you hear some gossip or something? Then why do you always compete with him for first place? Why did you use his old problem-solving method during the competition? Why the sudden haircut and makeover? She fired off questions in rapid succession, her voice tinged with grievance. You were never like this before. You never fought over anything with anyone. Only then did I realize that, in her eyes, all these changes I'd made were for Fu Ye's sake, in my past life. That had indeed been the case. Her intuition wasn't wrong, just the timeline was off. Tang Mengyue, I looked into her eyes and said earnestly, I did all this for myself. I want to test into Beijing and study aerospace under Professor Tang. I want to pay back what I owe my family with my own earnings. This has nothing to do with Fu Yi. She clearly didn't buy it, biting her lip as she said, then why do you always avoid him? Why are you afraid to talk to him? Because there's no need. I shrugged. We were never from the same world to begin with, and our paths won't cross again. Don't worry, I have zero interest in Fuyi. What more do you want? I'm actively avoiding him, with zero interaction. There's no way anything could develop between us. Why are you being so paranoid? With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. Her tearful voice called after me, saying something I couldn't, and didn't want to, make out. Truth be told, I felt a pang of disappointment too. I still have rose-tinted glasses when it comes to Tang Mengyue. After all, even after Fuyi married me in our past life, she remained his eternal white moonlight. As someone who topped the humanities subjects, I naturally assumed she was highly intelligent. Who knew she'd stoop to petty catfights now? Ever since then, Tang Mengyue's gaze toward me changed, laced with a hint of hostility. 6. Fuyi remained unchanged, though. He still walked to and from school with Tang Mengyue daily, only occasionally stealing glances at me during class. I didn't dwell on it. After all, I'd be leaving this place in 6 months anyway. On a December day, the first snow of the year began to fall. The bubble tea shop where I worked was packed, and I didn't clock out until 10 p.m. When I stepped outside, the snow had piled up thick, crunching underfoot with each step, hugging my coat tighter. I headed for the bus stop when suddenly someone called my name from behind. Jian Sui. Turning around, Fuyi stood beneath the streetlight. A light dusting of snow covered his shoulders as he held a black umbrella. Let me walk you home. No thanks. I waved my hand. The bus stop is just ahead. It's too late. The buses stopped running hours ago. He stepped closer, tilting the umbrella mostly toward me. I've been waiting here for nearly an hour. I froze. Why were you waiting for me? Mengyue said some inappropriate things to you, didn't she? He looked at me with heavy eyes. I've already explained to her. There's nothing going on between us. I was even more confused. Whatever's between you two has nothing to do with me. It does. He suddenly came to a halt. Snowflakes settled on his long lashes like a dusting of frost. Jian Sui, tell me, have you been reborn? My heart clenched violently, as if seized by an invisible hand. Blood rushed to my head in an instant, then turned ice cold through my veins the next moment. How could he know? Did he also get reborn? You? My lips parted wordlessly as I could only stare at him, frozen in shock. He suddenly laughed at my stunned expression. There was a hint of relief in that smile, yet also something bittersweet. So it's true. His hand reached out as if to touch my hair, then withdrew midair. During the car crash, I held your body in my arms. I heard your last words. It's all coming back to me now. In my final moments before losing consciousness, I did say something. I said, "Fi, if given another chance, I wouldn't want anything to do with you ever again." So he actually heard it. Turns out he's also been reborn with memories from his past life. I have no idea when exactly he was reincarnated, but given this second chance, I genuinely have nothing left to say to him. The snow fell heavier, swallowing all surrounding sounds. We stood beneath the streetlight, neither of us speaking. Only the whisper of snowflakes landing on the umbrella broke the silence. Why, after what felt like forever? He finally spoke hoarsely. Was I not good enough to you in our past life? 7. As I looked at him, an absurd feeling suddenly washed over me. Shouldn't he know damn well how he treated me in our past life? Fuyi. I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my voice steady. Whether you treat me well or not doesn't matter. What matters is I refuse to live that way anymore. Walking on eggshells every single day, obsessing over your preferences until I nearly forgot my own name. One taste of that life was more than enough. I can tell you've always regretted not marrying Tang Mengyue in your past life. Now that you're reborn, isn't this your chance to make things right? We were miserable together in our last life. Why cling to me now? His face turned pale, lips pressed into a thin line. So all the changes you've made in this lifetime were just to avoid me? Not entirely. I shook my head, mostly for my own sake, though avoiding you was part of the plan. He fell silent, his eyes brimmed with a storm of emotions, loneliness, confusion, and a sorrow I couldn't quite decipher. But I remember, he said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. I remember how we were after we got married. You always cried secretly at night. I thought you were after the Fu family's shares, craving higher status, until that car accident day, when I held your lifeless body in my arms. Only then did I suddenly remember. Your eyes used to shine when you first married me. My tears fell without warning. Oh, how happy I was when I first married him. Thought I'd finally gotten everything I ever dreamed of. Believed just a little more effort could melt his heart. Looking back now, I was such a naive fool. Fi, it's all in the past now. I wiped my tears and forced a smile. In this lifetime, you focus on being with Tang Mengyue, and I'll walk my own path. It's better this way, we won't interfere with each other. With that, I brushed past him and stepped into the snow, never looking back. This time, he didn't stop me. In the days that followed, Fuyi truly never contacted me again. 8. We attended the same classroom lectures, yet an invisible chasm lay between us. With neither acknowledging the other, Tang Mengyue started looking at me with much kinder eyes, occasionally even flashing me a smile. I poured all my energy into both studies and part-time jobs. During Spring Festival, I stayed behind working overtime at the bubble tea shop to earn triple pay instead of going home. On New Year's Eve, my boss gave me a red envelope and treated me to hot pot. "Young lady, you're working so hard. What are you aiming for?" the boss asked while dipping meat into the hot pot. I took a sip of cola and replied with a smile, "I want to get into a university in Beijing to study aerospace. That's an admirable ambition." The boss gave me a thumbs up. "If you really make it big someday, don't forget this little shop of mine." I burst out laughing, feeling warmth spread through my chest. This is the life I've always wanted, simple, free, and full of promise. The official admission notice arrived at the end of March. I went to the office with the notice to see our homeroom teacher, only to run into Fuyi there. He was holding a study abroad application. "Looks like he's planning to attend university overseas. Congratulations," he said first, his tone flat and unreadable. "Same to you." I nodded, took the documents from the homeroom teacher, and turned to leave without another word. "Jian Sui," he called after me again. I stopped in my tracks but didn't turn around. "That million," he said, "I can help you repay it." I turned around and looked at him. "Fuyi, do you still not understand? What I want isn't money, nor the position of the Fu family's young mistress. I want my own life." He looked at me with a complex expression in his eyes, as if he'd finally understood something. "I'm sorry," he murmured. It was the first apology he'd ever given me. "In this life or the last." I paused, then smiled. "It's okay. It really doesn't matter anymore. All those grievances, the resentment, and the countless nights of weeping dissolved into thin air with those 3 words." In mid-April, I received Professor Tang's reply, telling me I could visit him in the capital during summer break. I immediately quit my job at the bubble tea shop and started packing. The weather was perfect on my last day of school, with bright sunshine. Carrying my backpack, I walked out the school gate and spotted Fuyi and Tang Mengyue standing nearby. Tang Mengyue seemed upset, staring at the ground as if lost in thought. Fuyi noticed me and waved. I hesitated for a moment before walking over. "I'll be leaving next week," I said. "To Capital City?" Fuyi asked. 9. I nodded. "Safe travels." He looked at me with calm eyes and said, "Keep going. I believe in you." "You too," I replied with a smile before turning away. After walking some distance, I glanced back to see them still standing there. Sunlight bathed them like a still from a teen romance drama. This time, I felt neither envy nor jealousy, for I knew my own life had begun to shine with its unique radiance. After arriving in the capital, I began studying under Professor Tang. My days became fulfilling yet hectic, shuttling between laboratories and libraries. I took out a student loan and picked up a tutoring gig. It covers tuition and living expenses, plus I can save a bit each month to gradually pay off that million. Also, I've been working on a new project with old Tang recently. Once the patent gets approved, I'll be able to earn that million back in no time. During my free time, I occasionally hear updates about Fuyi from former classmates. They say he went to a top university abroad, that he broke up with Tang Mengyue, and that the Fu family business keeps expanding. I just listen without any particular feelings. A year later, I saved up my first sum of money. The money was transferred to Jane's parents' bank account. They never called, probably gave up on the arranged marriage idea completely. 2 years later, I was giving a presentation at an international aerospace forum. That's when I spotted Fuyi in the audience, dressed in a suit. He looked far more mature than in high school, accompanied by what appeared to be an assistant. After the presentation, he stopped me. "That was excellent. Thank you." I smiled. "I heard you're looking for investors." He said, "I could back you." I frowned, stared at him for a moment, then shook my head. "No need." 10. But basic living expenses will still be covered until I graduate high school. He stopped me. "Consider it, paying a debt from my past life. Please, just give me this chance." He looked at me with eyes that held both relief and reluctance. "Jian Sui, I have my own company now. It's also in the aerospace field. Maybe we'll have opportunities to collaborate in the future. If you." I paused for a moment, then smiled and cut him off. Sure, maybe some other time. Anyway, my professor's calling me, gotta run, see you. With that, I turned and left. Phi watched my retreating figure in silence for a long while before finally lowering his gaze. After that day, neither of us spoke of the past nor questioned the future again. Sunlight streamed through the venue's glass windows, bathing us in its warm, radiant glow. True letting go, I realized, isn't about cutting all ties forever. It's about being able to say hello with ease when we meet again, then continuing our separate journeys forward. My life is finally entirely my own. The end. Story 2. My fiancé Xingxiu, a psychiatrist, fell in love with his patient Songzhen. Without hesitation, I reported their affair to the hospital. Xingxiu faced disciplinary action. Songzhen later committed suicide due to depression. Xingxiu took his anger out on me and pushed me off the building. Falling for Songzhen was my mistake. But how dare you kill her? Let's try this again. I overheard 18-year-old Xingxiu sending voice messages to Songzhen. He clarified simply, his tone dripping with affection, Lin Jing and I are just neighbors. It's you I love, my little rose. Just beyond the door, I clutched Xingxiu's cancer diagnosis in my hand. The paper crumpled from my grip. 1. Xingxiu and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts, with our families being close. The adults would jokingly talk about arranging a marriage between us when we were kids. Nearly everyone took it for granted that we were an item, we just hadn't made it official yet. During winter break in our senior year of high school, both Xingxiu and I went for medical checkups. My health is excellent, with all indicators within normal range. Xingxiu, however, was diagnosed with early-stage leukemia during this checkup. I rushed to Xingxiu's home immediately after receiving the medical report to review it together. Thanks to prompt treatment, the cancer cells in Xingxiu's body didn't spread, and he made a full recovery within a year. In my past life, I missed the college entrance exam that year to accompany him through chemotherapy. After retaking the exam a year later, I ended up at a different university and program than I'd originally dreamed of. After Xingxiu recovered, he performed exceptionally well in the exams. To everyone's surprise, he got into the most prestigious medical school. After graduation, she became a highly sought-after psychiatrist. This time, I won't waste my future and youth nurturing a worthless man. I placed the medical report on the entryway cabinet of the Xing residence. Along with it, I returned the keys granting access to the Xing household. Mr. Xing is constantly tied up with business engagements, leaving early and returning late. Mrs. Xing is hooked on social mahjong games. She won't stop until she's had her daily fix. As for when they'll actually get around to reading that medical report, God only knows. 2. Back home, I saw my parents, looking years younger, enthusiastically discussing something. It felt like a lifetime had passed. My father noticed I'd returned. They just mentioned to me about the family's plan to buy a new home. The place we live in was originally allocated by my parents' work unit. By my senior year of high school, 3 generations had lived there. In their earlier years, my parents barely managed to scrape together the down payment, because I refused to abandon Xingxiu during his critical illness, especially when his family couldn't afford the medical bills. I even asked my parents to contribute part of our down payment to help the Xings through this tough time. This time, I genuinely smiled and responded enthusiastically at the dinner table. Sounds great. Are we looking at properties in the Southern District? My parents exchanged glances. They've shortlisted several properties, with the one in the Southern District being their top choice. I live in the eastern part of town, while both my school and parents' workplaces are downtown. Commuting to school and work isn't really an issue, it's just that, my mom asked with concern, won't this affect your studies? I smiled faintly. Mom, during the second semester of senior year, I could board at school. It's just, my mother's gaze hesitated for a moment. Just can't help you with the move. Mom visibly relaxed after saying that. After dinner, I went back to my room to study, though in truth, I was eavesdropping on my parents' conversation in the next room. My dad said to my mom while washing dishes, kids are always changing their minds. Who knows what they really want? When you sounded her out today, didn't she say it wouldn't affect her? My mom said with lingering fear, let's hope so, but with us moving farther away, will Xiaojing really be willing to leave Xingxiu behind? My dad is more of an optimist. Linjing has always prioritized her studies. Don't worry, she knows her own mind. 3. In my past life, after I started dating Xingxiu, my mother never really approved of our relationship. I asked her why. You keep giving unconditionally, and Xingxiu has grown accustomed to your sacrifices. This kind of relationship isn't stable. Once, my mother didn't get to finish her sentence before I cut her off. Back then, Xingxiu was all I could think about. How could our decade-long relationship possibly be unstable? That's all I could think about. Until the day Xingxiu missed my wedding dress fitting. I went to the hospital to find him. There they were. Him lifting Songjin onto his desk, the two locked in a passionate kiss. Nothing in this world is truly unbreakable or permanent. I secretly snapped photos through the door crack, then immediately emailed them to all the top hospital administrators. Had Xingxiu cheated with someone else, I might not have been so consumed by rage, so hellbent on ruining them both. But the one he cheated with was none other than Song Zhen. In their past life, she was the impoverished transfer student Xingxiu inexplicably fell for during his senior year. For her sake, Xingxiu bore the stigma of teenage romance, watching his grades plummet, skipping classes, parental summons, fighting demerits. He committed every conceivable teenage transgression. But what about Song Zhen? She turned Xingxiu's youth upside down and nearly ruined his future. The moment Xingxiu was diagnosed with cancer, she cut ties with him immediately. Later, I even helped the cancer-stricken Xingxiu to reach out to her. Public records reveal a startling contrast in Song Zhen's character. Beneath her gentle, resilient facade lies a tangled web of affairs with wealthy heirs. Watching Xingxiu fighting for his life in that hospital bed, I ultimately couldn't bring myself to tell him the whole truth. After all these years, Xingxiu and I are finally getting married. Against all odds, they found their way back to each other. My years-long relationship with Xingxiu was like a child I'd raised with my own hands. Only to watch it drown in that river they call time. My heart aches as if bleeding. That's exactly why I'll make them suffer more than I do. But after the truth came out, I never got to witness Xingxiu coming to me with remorse and apologies. Song Zhen is dead. This came completely out of the blue. I had no idea her depression was actually real. I thought it was just another one of her manipulative tactics to win Xingxiu's sympathy and reconcile with him. Just like in high school when she pretended to be a pitiful scholarship student, only to be seen hopping into a parked Kian around the corner. She's a master at these games, yet Xingxiu blamed everything on me. He argued with me. Falling for Song Zhen was my mistake. But how dare you kill her? I fired back without backing down. You're blaming me for her death. Why not admit your incompetent medical skills failed to cure her? Xingxiu, is this your idea of medical ethics? Treating depression by taking patients to bed. You're engaged. She knew you were getting married. You two messed up first. So why is everything suddenly my fault? Xingxiu laughed through tears, his sanity hanging by a thread, yet that didn't stop him from shoving me straight out the window. The weightless sensation of plummeting from great heights, everything aligned perfectly with my dream. I screamed in shock, my voice failing me, hearing my cries. My parents rushed into my room to comfort me. Calm down, what's wrong? Don't be afraid, it was just a dream, just a dream. I looked up at my concerned parents, wiping the sweat from my forehead. Mom, Dad, can we move out sooner? My parents exchanged glances and agreed for now. After being reborn, I had two modest goals. First, wait for Xingxiu to die. Second, tell him to get lost. 5. I stayed holed up at home until the new semester began. When Xingxiu messaged or called, I'd just read without replying. I muted all group chats involving him, since he lived just upstairs from me. He came to visit several times. Either he got the door shut in his face, or my parents would brush him off with excuses. Xingxiu was acting strange. I used to revolve my whole world around him, making him the center of my life. My sudden disappearance must have left him unsettled, but soon, Song Zhen became the center of his world. His social media unexpectedly filled with dawn vegetable harvests in the suburbs, snapshots of sunrise from produce carts, quirky market vendor stories. For secure document protection, choose Xiaohu Bot. Reliable, trustworthy, and hassle-free. Yet during the critical Gaokao year, he'd still trek from downtown to Song Zhen's rural home to help out. While all students burned the midnight oil preparing for college entrance exams, he basked in the morning sun of the suburbs, toiling in the fields. My eyes bloodshot, I revisited mountains of past exam papers, scrambling for every precious point. At the market, he haggled fiercely with customers over every penny for a pound of vegetables. Between the lines of his social media posts, a shift in perspective became evident. Those carefree days of focusing solely on studies struck him as dreary, suffocating, and mind-numbingly dull. Yet the simple transactions at the wet market seemed vibrant, warm, and brimming with life to his eyes. I couldn't tell which was true. Was Song Zhen genuinely this captivating, Or had Xingxiu's brain cells been hijacked by cancer? He's blocked his parents and teachers on social media, while sharing everything openly with classmates and friends. His close friends wouldn't just stand by watching him spiral out of control. When they tried to talk sense into him, he ended up convincing them to buy extra groceries before leaving. They had no choice but to seek help from teachers, Xingxiu's parents. And even me, hoping we could talk some sense into him. Xinyan, my high school desk mate who used to be the biggest shipper of me and Xingxiu. 6, she called me, sounding like she was about to lose it. What's going on with you and Xingxiu? How did he turn into the male version of Wang Baochuan over winter break? He must have uprooted every vegetable sprout across the mountains. I couldn't help but laugh. Don't laugh. Did Xingxiu break up with you? I told Xinyan about how Xingxiu confessed to Songjin. Xingxiu and I are just childhood neighbors who grew up together. We might look close, but that's it. He's never confessed to me, and I've never said I liked him. Xinyan, we were never together to begin with, so there's no breakup to talk about. Xinyan paused for a split second before going completely ballistic. Police. What kind of just a neighbor remembers your period and brings you heating pads and ginger tea? That's no damn neighbor. During stream selection, Xingxiu was clearly better at sciences, yet he fought like mad with the homeroom teacher to switch to arts for you until you compromised and both went to science class. Name one holiday besides Tomb Sweeping Day when you didn't prepare gifts for him, and he used to reciprocate too. Weren't you two just one confession away from being together? How did things end up like this? I listened quietly as Xinyan recounted every detail with fondness. Finally, my heart clenched. Isn't a confession all that's missing between us? In my past life, I received that confession by Xingxiu's hospital bed. Seeing me exhausted and slumped asleep by the hospital bed, Xingxiu finally couldn't resist ruffling my hair, whispering those words. Calm down, I do like you. Such beautiful promises, all because we were too young. What I believed to be unwavering devotion, in truth. It was merely Xingxiu's pity or gratitude toward me. I fought tooth and nail to save Xingxiu's life, yet he could just as easily take mine over Songjin's death. So whose love for whom was truly unwavering? Isn't the answer obvious? Xinyan, it's just Xingxiu. How could he compare to the college entrance exams? Xinyan's family is wealthy, so even if she fails the exams, she can still study abroad. That's why she can ship couples without a care in the world, but I'm not. Xinyan was cheerful by nature and didn't dwell on it. Screw that jerk. Once we're in college, you'll have your pick of handsome guys. I laughed it off and changed the subject. I've already wasted too much on a relationship that wasn't worth it. Now is when I take back control of my own life. That evening, our family was having dinner. 7. Suddenly we heard violent shouting and the sound of things being smashed from Xingxiu's apartment upstairs. My father stood up. He and Xing's dad used to work at the same company. Hearing the commotion, his first instinct was to break up the fight. My mother frowned and told him to wait. My parents exchanged glances before turning their attention to me. I said calmly, Dad, they're still upset. You should go later. Dad grunted in agreement and sat down without moving. My mother said calmly, the whole neighborhood's been talking. It turns out Xingxiu kept sneaking out to help a girl's family sell vegetables. Until someone recognized him and told his parents. My father picked up his chopsticks again. Oh, so that's what happened. Since it's none of our business, there's no need to get involved. But who would have thought? Right after dinner, Mrs. Xing showed up at our door with a badly beaten Xingxiu in tow. My parents were stunned, but couldn't very well turn them away. My mom was pulled onto the sofa by Xing's mother, listening to her tearful complaints. I thought it would just be a simple venting session, but then Xing's mother pointed at Xingxiu standing ramrod straight in the living room and scolded, this boy and your daughter Ling Jing were always so close. It's all that vegetable vendor girl's doing. She's the one who convinced him to skip studying during this crucial final year of high school to go sell vegetables with her in the suburbs. After all these years between our families, I only recognize Ling Jing as Xingxiu's rightful match. That vegetable peddler will never ruin my son's future. It's Xingxiu who wronged Ling Jing. Bring her here. He must apologize to her properly. Mrs. Xing's words came out all jumbled and contradictory, but the underlying message was clear. She meant to shackle me to Xingxiu permanently. My mother gently brushed away Aunt Xing's hand. You're just overwhelmed with grief. Who's this vegetable vendor girl? What's her relationship with Xingxiu? How did this suddenly become about staying calm? My dad jumped in and said, Ling Jing hasn't left the house all winter break, nor has she seen Xingxiu. Isn't that right? Xingxiu, his handsome face cold and arrogant, retorted, Mom, save your breath. I only like Song Zhen. Lung Jing means nothing to me. My mother chuckled softly. Mrs. Sheng, did you hear what Xiaoxing just said? What does Xiaoxing's crush have to do with Ling Jing? The only connection between them is being classmates and neighbors. My father's tone turned stern too. You're a senior in high school already, still thinking about relationships. I'm going to have a word with old Xing about this. Mrs. Xing watched as Xing Xiao undermined her efforts while my parents remained unappreciative. She stopped crying abruptly and hurriedly dragged Xing Xiao away. She came behind Mr. Xing's back this time. If he finds out, there'll be hell to pay at home. My dad even called out when opening the door. Don't come again next time. After closing the door, he started venting to my mom. We need to move out of this place ASAP. These neighbors have the audacity to treat my daughter as their backup option, just because we've been living next to each other for years. Do they really think their precious Xingxiu is the only eligible bachelor in town? What absolute nonsense. The neighborhood in the southern part of town is technically a resale property, but since the previous owner never moved in, it's practically brand new. 8. With all the furniture and appliances already in place, our family basically moved in with just our suitcases. On moving day, my dad hired a moving truck to transport our essential belongings. All our longtime neighbors kept asking why we were moving so abruptly. My dad chuckled and said, out with the old, in with the new. We'd have to move eventually anyway, doing it now saves us some hassle. Mrs. Xing peeked at us moving from her balcony, trying not to be noticed. She didn't dare show her face, afraid of attracting gossip. Then Xing Xiao showed up, his face bruised and swollen from a beating. With a look of concern and anxiety, he asked, Lung Jing, why did your family move out so suddenly? I snapped. To save myself from being someone's backup plan, he quickly explained. Lung Jing, that was Mom's idea. I never intended. I cut him off. That day at home, I heard everything. We're through. Xingxiu. Xingxiu's lips turned bloodless. My words carried the finality of a judge's gavel. Xingxiu, and I should have ended this long ago. As we spoke, I caught sight of a gaunt figure lurking near the neighborhood gate. It was Song Zhen. I deliberately positioned myself to make our silhouettes appear intimately close, as if we were reluctant to part. Xingxiu was still trying to mend something. Calm down. Can we at least stay friends? I smirked without smiling. Xingxiu, don't flatter yourself. I wouldn't even want you as a neighbor, let alone a friend. If it weren't for the hassle of transferring schools during senior year, I wouldn't even want to see you again. From now on, it's just like you said, we're done. I emphasized the word we with deliberate weight. Xingxiu's face crumpled with heartbreak. Just look at how he reduced our childhood bond of over a decade to mere neighborly acquaintance with a few careless words. When I finally gave him what he wanted and disappeared from his life, he suddenly started getting nostalgic about me. What a joke. Mom called out to me, chill, let's go. Got it, I responded cheerfully, darting toward my parents like a homesick bird returning to its nest, only after being truly reborn. Did I finally understand that ancient verse, the caged bird longs for its forest, as the pond fish yearns for its deep waters? No matter how fierce the storm outside, at least I still have a home to return to. Truck loading completed. 9. Our family got into the private car while waiting for the property management to open the gate. Just as I expected, I saw Song Zhen running tearfully into Xingxiu's arms. It was the liveliest time of day in the neighborhood. Mrs. Xing had been watching everything from upstairs the whole time. How could she miss seeing that vegetable peddler girl she so despised, brazenly coming to her doorstep to seduce her son? In no time, Mrs. Xing stormed downstairs, forcibly separated the two, and slapped Song Zhen across the face. The security guard slowed down even more to watch the commotion. My father frowned and tapped the horn. Xingxiu turned to look. The rearview mirror reflected his bewildered and ashamed expression. The whole family had to witness such an embarrassing and humiliating scene. As our car drove off, the security guard even gave us a "see you around" hand gesture. My father flushed crimson and muttered, we've known each other for years. Even they think our family got a raw deal. They deliberately slowed everything down just to make us watch this show. Pfft, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Laughter is contagious. Both my mom and dad couldn't help but burst out laughing. It's not very nice. But part of me still wants to say, serves you right. After being reborn, I have two little goals. 10. 1. Wait for Xingxiu to die. 2. Get the hell out of here. After moving, my parents let me pick my room first. I chose the east-facing one. 11. Waking at dawn to catch the first rays of sunlight. That's what rebirth feels like. the gentle sunlight danced across my book pages like mischievous sprites. I've lived a lifetime in blissful ignorance. Time is far too precious to me. With just months left before the college entrance exams, I asked my parents if they could find me a private tutor. Mom and Dad didn't say much. Deep down, we were all relieved that Xingxiu's situation hadn't affected me much. They quickly found a suitable tutor through connections. It was Jiangli, a sophomore from a prestigious university. He truly lives up to his name, a born scientist through and through. Even the driest scientific concepts become accessible and profound when he explains them. In my past life, I went through college entrance exam retakes. The national college entrance exam remains, even years later, a regret I can do nothing about. In countless nightmares, I find myself back in the Gaokao exam hall, staring at completely blank science test papers. I'm so nervous I can barely breathe, gripping my pen but unable to write a single word, because in the dream, the exam paper is completely blurred. I can't make out a single question. When I wake up choking back tears, Xingxiu lying beside me just sneers. After all these years, you're still scared of the college entrance exam. Not a single word of comfort. He's already made it big. Of course he couldn't care less about how I feel, but I can't do that. Only then did I realize, what truly terrified me to the core wasn't the college entrance exam, but that overwhelming sense of powerlessness over my own destiny. When winter break ended, I returned to school. 12. Xingyan wrapped a concerned arm around mine. Easy there, you okay? I was completely in the dark, Xingyan said. Haven't you checked the class group? An anonymous account posted a video on the campus confession wall. I watched the video on the phone Xingyan handed to me. It showed Songjin going to your place, hugging Xingxiu, and then getting beaten by Xing's mother. Xingyan said, the whole school's buzzing about how you and Xingxiu were childhood sweethearts. Yet you let that naive freshman Songjin steal him right from under your nose. Some are even saying you filmed that video and posted it from a burner account. Everyone's waiting to see how you'll win Xingxiu back. I frowned. The ridiculous drama finally splashed onto me. Xingxiu and I were classmates. I thought running into each other would just be awkward. But trouble has a way of finding me. After class started, the homeroom teacher gave the whole class a stern lecture from the podium. For secure document printing, choose Xiaohu Bot, reliable and hassle-free service you can trust. This is the most critical year of high school. Show some respect for yourselves and others. Cut out all that romantic nonsense. I raised my hand to request a seat change. The homeroom teacher glared at me for a moment, then shifted his furious gaze to Xingxiu sitting in front of me. Eventually, he separated us by banishing us to opposite corners of the classroom. It felt like we were being exiled to the frontier. We both consistently ranked in the class's top 10, with Xingxiu occasionally topping the entire grade in individual subjects. The teacher could tolerate someone's self-destructive stupidity, but would never allow it to disrupt other students' learning. I told my dad about it, and he immediately brought the neighborhood surveillance footage to the teacher that same day. The footage showed our whole family busy moving out of the neighborhood. By the time Songjin lunged at Xingxiu and got hit by Xing's mom, our car had already left the neighborhood gates. The camera angles and timeline prove it's impossible for me to have shot that video. My father repeatedly confirmed that Xingxiu and I were just longtime neighbors. How dare someone with no self-respect drag my daughter into this mess? She's a senior now. Any emotional disturbance could ruin her college entrance exams. Hearing how furious my father was, even the homeroom teacher grew ashamed and promised repeatedly to clear my name. The confession wall video was taken down almost immediately. Songjin's first-year homeroom teacher summoned her parents. 13. Her parents knew they were in the wrong. His idea of discipline was to publicly drag Songjin over and slap her hard across the face. Coincidentally, Xingxiu happened to be there for a parent meeting that same day. He immediately rushed over and got into an argument with Song's father. It happened during recess, with teachers and students on different floor corridors all witnessing this dramatic scene. Xingyan couldn't resist either and ran out to watch. I put on my headphones, shutting out that farce from my world. An ambulance arrived on campus. During the scuffle with Mr. Song, Xingxiu got shoved in the head and immediately collapsed, with unstoppable nosebleeds. Many people were terrified. At the hospital, doctors ran numerous tests before solemnly informing Xing's parents about his condition. The parents were stunned. Their son had been perfectly fine just days earlier when he got into that fight. How could a simple shove lead to a leukemia diagnosis? When the news reached school, many felt like they were living through the pages of some tragic coming-of-age novel. The star-crossed lovers from vastly different worlds were cruelly kept apart by those around them, yet they loved recklessly, defying their parents and sacrificing college entrance exams. Now Xingxiu's cancer diagnosis casts a heartbreaking yet poignant glow over their youthful romance. Xinyan couldn't help but feel utterly dejected. Wait, wasn't it Xingxiu who wronged you last week? With Songjin playing the innocent homewrecker, how did this suddenly turn into some tragic teenage romance? I smiled and ruffled Xinyan's hair. Focus on your studies. Even soap operas would reject this cliché melodrama. Why bother watching it? Xinyan snapped impatiently. Damn right. I'd rather read books than watch those trashy scumbags. Ha, this story no longer needs me, the lovesick, venomous supporting character. The world is crueler than even a supporting character like me. Just wait and see. Xingxiu couldn't come to school due to illness. He was inevitably going to miss this year's college entrance exams too. 14. His classmates all felt sorry for him, visiting him in small groups on their own initiative, everyone but me. In the early stages of treatment, Xingxiu sat on the hospital bed holding Songjin's hand, beaming with joy. Go ahead and envy me. I've found a love more precious than life itself. This line became legendary for a time. Mutual friends cautiously asked me, are you really not going to visit? I'd just wave my textbook or test papers in the air. There are more important things than visiting the sick. Not that they could really say anything about it. They had just as many books to read and exams to prepare for as I did. Cruel, heartless. Xingxiu and I had that ambiguous relationship for years. Most people assumed we were a couple. Yet he never bothered to clarify. But when Songjin entered his life, suddenly he couldn't explain things fast enough. Am I some kind of personal belonging to him? Does he think I'll come running whenever he snaps his fingers? His mistakes and illnesses are no excuse to drag me into this. Whenever Xinyan overheard those whispering behind her back, she'd give them a piece of her mind. Didn't Xingxiu find a love more precious than life itself? If they're so perfect together, why bother analyzing it coldly? I accidentally converted her from a casual shipper to a devoted fan. Over time, people stopped paying attention to me. Most people following this incident were just waiting to see how Songjin would react. From the very beginning, Songjin, now the center of scandalous rumors, started frequently taking leaves and arriving late. No need to ask, she'd inevitably respond with red-rimmed eyes, murmuring pitifully, 15. Xingxiu's in the hospital, I need to see him. Upon hearing this, Xinyan couldn't help rolling her eyes. Didn't you say it's just the early stage? No need for that over-the-top dying act. Harsh words, but music to my ears. But I wouldn't let her ramble on. Just flipped through more test papers for her to practice. Xinyan's rock-bottom grades showed no improvement throughout high school, yet her recent mock exam scores jumped over 100 points. When she got the test paper, her expression mirrored the homeroom teacher's disbelief. She finally couldn't help but let out a whoop of joy. Calm down, is this score real? Did I actually earn this? First time in my life I've scored this high without cheating. The homeroom teacher didn't press her about the cheating allegations either. With Xinyan's personality and family background, cheating would be utterly beneath her. Our homeroom teacher grinned at the class and said, look, until the final moment of the college entrance exam, anything's possible, go for it, boys and girls. Who says teenage years are wasted without romance? Cramming for exams can be just as thrilling. The whole class burst into laughter. Yeah, everyone felt tremendously motivated and inspired by the success. Xinyan became obsessed with studying. When she puts her mind to it, she only sleeps 3 hours a day. No more colored contacts, no more eyeliner, just washing my face with plain water. My skin's breaking out from late nights. But I can't even bother anymore, she said to me. This feeling of fulfillment is amazing. Like if I just push a little harder, I might actually grasp something real. My nose tingled as I let out a bitter chuckle. That's what it feels like to seize control of your own destiny, the opportunity I'd lost in my past life. Halfway through the semester, Songjin had accumulated far too many unexcused absences. The school could sympathize with Xingxiu's illness, but couldn't indefinitely tolerate his puppy love with Songjin. 16. This had severely damaged the school's reputation. They advised Songjin's parents to simply have her take a leave of absence. Songjin's parents had limited means. Supporting their child's education was no easy feat. In the end, their daughter dropped out of school just to become an unpaid caregiver at someone else's sickbed. They were heartbroken. What hurt them most was the attitude of Xing's parents toward them. It was clearly their own daughter who sacrificed her education for Xingxiu. The Xing family simply looked down on them, as if their whole clan was trying to leech off the Shins. Could Xingxiu and Songjin's relationship really remain unshaken under such circumstances? The whole world isn't going to make way for their dramatic love story, while building my own future. I'm waiting to see how their doomed romance plays out. Then, during a class break, Songjin came running to find me. She wanted me to visit Xingxiu at the hospital. I'm not a doctor. What good would visiting do when I can't cure his cancer? Am I supposed to comfort him with years of neighborly affection when you're the love he values more than life itself? 17. Or tell me, what exactly should I say or do when I go there to satisfy both you and him? Songjin stood utterly speechless. Her eyes reddened as if I'd subjected her to unbearable humiliation, with Xingxiu around. She could win without lifting a finger, but now they were standing outside a senior-year classroom. Her notorious reputation made even standing at the doorway seem like a provocation. Xinyan pushed through the crowd, shouting, "What are you doing? Staring at her won't help. Hit the books instead." The homeroom teacher trailing behind her scrutinized Songjin with a stern frown. "You're a freshman, right? What brings you to the senior-year hallway?" Songjin replied timidly. "I'm here to see Ling Jing." The homeroom teacher wore a knowing smirk. Aren't you Xingxiu's little girlfriend? Shouldn't you be keeping him company at the hospital right now?" Songjin's pitiful face flushed and paled in rapid succession. The entire school knew about their earth-shattering, teenage life-or-death romance. What's there for her to deny? I wanted to ask Ling Jing to visit Xingxiu at the hospital, but the homeroom teacher said, "Xingxiu is also my student. And I've been keeping tabs on his condition. With his recent chemotherapy, he's in terrible pain and has lost all his hair. In this state, would our visit really be appropriate?" Songjin was trying to emotionally manipulate people. The teacher effortlessly deflected it with minimal effort. "I just found it ridiculous. Why did she think others were too stupid to see through her little tricks? Did you get too much satisfaction from Xingxiu?" Seeing her relentless persistence, Xinyan spoke up. "Class advisor, how about we visit Xingxiu as student representatives this afternoon?" God knows what the teacher was thinking, he agreed without hesitation. Songjin's eyes widened in disbelief. Clearly, this outcome caught everyone off guard. Most people just want front row seats to the drama. My life was never meant to be entertainment. They can be the audience, but I reserve the right to walk off stage. But since Song's so fond of performing, let her put on her little show. Xingxiu's condition has taken a bad turn. Dark circles hollowed his eyes. His cheeks were sunken, he'd wasted away to a walking skeleton. 18. Xinyan looked at him like she'd seen a ghost. "I've seen him like this in a past life. Back then, my heart was breaking." Turning away, I couldn't hold back the tears. Now, Xingxiu lies listlessly in bed, a woolen cap covering his thinning hair. His condition still causes occasional dizziness and vomiting. Xing's mother was cleaning up his vomit. The ward reeked of a nauseating stench. Xinyan couldn't take it anymore and rushed to the restroom. Hearing the noise, Mom Xing started cursing without even turning around. "You little bitch Songjin, where the hell did you?" The homeroom teacher and I turned to look, but Songjin had already vanished. Mom Xing froze on the spot. His movements became visibly flustered, especially after spotting me. "Stay calm, it's you." Xingxiu struggled to sit up upon hearing my name. His mother moved to support him, but he shook her off. He wordlessly struggled to sit up. When he saw me, a deliberate smile surfaced on his pallid, sickly face. He was acting too, playing the part of a normal Xingxiu. He's such a proud man. How could he possibly want to see me now and let his pride be trampled? I heard Xing's mother sniffle before speaking to him. "Xingxiu, are you alright? Songjin sent us to check on you, hoping to give you some encouragement. The college entrance exams are coming up. We really hope you recover soon so we can face this make-or-break challenge together." Even the simplest, most sincere words felt like cruel mockery to Xingxiu in his current state. The homeroom teacher and Xing's mother stepped aside to talk privately. A storm of emotion swirled in Xingxiu's eyes. "Did Songjin send you?" "Yes, she said you missed seeing your teachers and classmates." I should tell him about Songjin's thoughtful little arrangement. Xingxiu violently shoved aside the bedside table before collapsing back onto the hospital bed, his body convulsing uncontrollably. The homeroom teacher urgently summoned doctors and nurses. Behind the ward's glass door, Xing's mother sobbed hysterically while the teacher let out a heavy sigh. I gave Xing's mother a comforting pat on the shoulder and handed her a tissue packet. "Aunt Xing. Xingxiu is so strong, he'll definitely pull through for Songjin's sake." Mrs. Xing looked up, her face a picture of heartbreak. Song Zhen and Xingxiu broke up. When you think about it, it was actually quite straightforward. 19. Just like their love that sprang from nowhere. 20. Quick to ignite, quicker to fade. Through the long days of caregiving, Song Zhen had lost sight of love's true form. She was still just a student, after all. She had to constantly take leave from work, playing nursemaid to Xingxiu in the hospital, all the while enduring Xing's mother's curses, her own parents' complaints, and even criticism from teachers and classmates at school. She couldn't take it anymore. It's not like I gave you leukemia. Why does everyone act like this is my fault? Xingxiu looked at her as if she were a stranger. Then why did you send Lin Jing to see me? Song Zhen froze for a moment before retorting defiantly, you grew up together. How could I not know you have feelings for her too? Xingxiu froze in shock. After all these years together day and night, his feelings for me were truly special. But ever since Song Zhen appeared, he became completely captivated by her. Song Zhen was like a wild rose blooming in untamed wilderness, radiating far more vitality than a rule-following bookworm like me. Poverty never constrained Song Zhen, it only made her authenticity shine brighter. Their first meeting happened when a child stumbled before a rich kid's car on the street. It was Song Zhen who rushed forward, shielding the child while standing her ground against the entitled heir. Back then, Song Zhen radiated courage and resilience, glowing with an indomitable spirit. Xingxiu found himself utterly captivated. That's why he fell for Song Zhen, for her. He'd defy his family and quarrel with his parents. Why couldn't Song Zhen love him with equal conviction? How could she say she's tired after just a few months? Song Zhen, even if you pity me, this isn't the time to say. Song Zhen interrupted Xingxiu. I'm miserable enough already. Why should I pity you? I'm not some emotionless statue. To continue her education and escape public scrutiny, Song Zhen abruptly transferred to a school in another city. Her parents were migrant workers anyway. One city was as good as another for making a living. 21. The Song family left without even a word to the Xings. The Xings would later go searching for Song Zhen. Song Zhen's homeroom teacher relayed that she had broken up with Xingxiu, and asked them not to bother her anymore. Xing's parents were absolutely furious, but what right did they have to blame Song Zhen? Frankly speaking, this teenage romance seemed more like Xingxiu holding Song Zhen back. Many people shared this view, including Song Zhen's homeroom teacher. The passionate life-or-death romance of youth ultimately withered away within months. Both teachers and students at school were preoccupied. They have to blame Song Zhen. Frankly speaking, this teenage romance seemed more like Xingxiu holding Song Zhen back. Many people shared this view, including Song Zhen's homeroom teacher. The passionate life-or-death romance of youth ultimately withered away within months. Both teachers and students at school were preoccupied. They were consumed by their own lives, heard about it, just laughed it off. My parents got wind of this. They just sighed behind my back and left it at that. Humph. What can a mere few months of puppy love possibly withstand in the face of life and death? Only in my past life was I foolish enough to believe Xingxiu and I were childhood sweethearts of over a decade, making me reluctant to abandon him. I went through hell and back with Xingxiu once. In the end, the moment Song Zhen appeared, all our feelings turned to ashes. The favored ones always take love for granted. I've nursed the critically ill Xingxiu. The ordeal was unbearable both mentally and physically. That's why I knew all along the teenage Song Zhen would never last. But I just had to watch their love get crushed to pieces by reality. I also wanted to see Xingxiu's miserable state, hovering between life and death. Xingxiu didn't disappoint me. As expected, he plunged headlong into reminiscing about Song Zhen. 22. Xing's parents went to great lengths to reignite his will to live and convince him to continue treatment. I stopped asking about Xingxiu and Song Zhen's affairs. With Jiang Li's help, my science grades improved steadily, finally making up for my previous weaknesses. That June, I walked into the Gaokao examination hall. While waiting for the results, Xinyan and I embarked on a whirlwind tour, hitting 3 cities in 7 days. While marveling at our country's magnificent landscapes, I stumbled upon an unexpected delight. The college entrance exam results came out soon after. I got accepted into the prestigious 211 university I'd always dreamed of. Xinyan managed to get into a second-tier university through last-minute efforts. This result might seem insignificant to others, but for Xinyan's parents, it was earth-shattering good news. Xinyan turned down the study abroad plan, telling her parents she'd retake the exams to get into the same university as me next year. Her parents fully supported her decision. It wasn't until my freshman year began that I heard about Xingxiu again from Xinyan. He's recovered and came back to repeat the year, but whether it's from chemo or heartbreak, his grades have really taken a nosedive. 23. Oh, really? Sensing my disinterest, Shenyan casually probed for some gossip. How's it going with Jiangli? I chuckled softly as Jiangli across the street had already bought me bubble tea. He's still chasing after me. A teacher-student romance with an age gap. Ooh, so forbidden and unconventional. Shenyan is forever shipping me in her favorite CP. Jiangli's university was in the same city as mine. Early in freshman year, he started visiting often, taking me to meals, exploring this ancient capital, soaking in all its cultural flavors. I've lived 2 lifetimes after all. Brief though they've been, the subtle affections between grown men and women are quite transparent. Jiangli sported a neat, close-cropped haircut, tall, handsome, and considerate to a fault, though he insists on treating me like a child, occasionally tapping my forehead. When he confessed to me, I pondered for ages but still couldn't figure out when he'd started liking me. Jiangli held my hand as we strolled down the tree-lined campus avenue, autumn leaves crunching beneath our feet. Actually, we met as kids. I'm 2 years older. We lived in the same staff housing complex. I used to play Eagle Catches Chicks with your kindergarten group. Then my family moved away when I started elementary school. I vaguely remember such an older brother. But that feels like ancient history now. I remember many families moving out of our neighborhood. Xingxiu was the only one I was really close to. We had the strongest bond. I've always known about you. When I heard your family needed a tutor, I volunteered immediately, but you didn't recognize me and kept calling me teacher this and teacher that. No wonder you asked me to call you brother. Jiangli naturally pulled me into a hug, patting my hand as he said. I smiled. Now we're not mismatched in seniority anymore. We could almost pass as childhood sweethearts. Childhood sweethearts. Who isn't childhood sweethearts with someone these days? 24. Yeah, coming home for Lunar New Year during freshman year. Jiangli paid us a New Year's visit right after the holiday began. My parents welcomed him in with smiles, then exchanged knowing glances, a silent understanding of mutual satisfaction. I asked Jiangli, what brings you here? Jiangli scratched his head. New Year's greetings, and to check on you. The corners of my mouth curled into a smile. Jiangli added, there's something I'd like to discuss with you both. What is it? Well, about parental arrangements. Just as I was about to tease Jiangli, the doorbell rang. My dad opened the door with a peculiar expression. The next moment, Xingxiu walked in. He happened to see me peeling an orange for Jiangli. His parents behind him saw it too. The expressions on that family of 3 were quite a sight. I suspect they came to my place mainly to seek reconciliation, so I made up an excuse and left with Jiangli. As my father closed the door, he deliberately said something to the Xing family inside. Jiangli is Lin Jing's boyfriend, who came all the way to visit us during the New Year holidays. Jiangli walked faster than me. Couldn't tell if he heard it or not, with most places packed during the holidays. Jiangli and I headed to Shenyan's villa instead. Shenyan had the entire floor to herself. No matter how many guests visited, she'd retreat upstairs claiming to study, and nobody dared disturb her. Her crescent moon eyes never left Jiangli, sparkling with amusement. So you're Professor Jiang. After barely exchanging 2 sentences, Jiangli stepped out to the balcony for some air. I can tell, he's practically steaming. Shenyan whispered, miles better than Xingxiu, honestly. I mentioned Xingxiu's family coming over to my place. Shenyan sneered, back when he fell for someone else. He claimed you were just neighbors. Now you're not even that. What's he doing at your place? Like I care what he's after. Xingxiu could only hurt me because I used to love him. I still wish he were dead. Pity the illness didn't finish him off. Shenyan continued. Ever since Xingxiu came back, he's been acting really odd. He couldn't keep up with schoolwork anymore and just wanted to go into business with his dad. Even the homeroom teacher tried talking him out of it several times. With his academic foundation, he clearly had good chances of getting into a top-tier university. A sudden thought occurred to me. That suspicion was soon confirmed. 25. After Jiangli walked me home, I unexpectedly ran into Xingxiu in the hallway. Xingxiu fixed me with an intense stare. Calm down. You're back too, aren't you? Xingxiu had truly returned. That look in his eyes was both familiar and alien, like a weathered desert traveler yearning for an oasis. I steadied myself. This is my doorstep. What's wrong with me coming home? Xingxiu gave a wistful smile. Calm down. I've studied micro-expressions. You can't fool me. We know each other too well. Xingxiu grabbed my arm. Calm down. I remember everything now. In this lifetime, Songzhen actually abandoned me. I've suffered the consequences of my own ingratitude. Stay calm. The one person I can never let go is actually you. I'm absolutely terrified. How could I not be? That's the murderer who pushed me off the building in my past life. Seizing the chance, I broke free and sprinted desperately toward my doorstep. The door swung open instantly, flooding the area with warm household light. Turned out my mom had heard the commotion and come out. Xingxiu, what are you trying to do? I dodged to the side. My father came out too. Today we've made it perfectly clear to your parents, there's absolutely no future between you and Lingjing. Why are you still here? Xingxiu said nothing, just gazed at me with heartrending sorrow. I couldn't bear to look at him anymore. Xingxiu left. His parents had dragged him away by force. My father cast aside years of friendship and issued a harsh ultimatum. If Xingxiu dares set foot in our neighborhood again, I'll have him arrested on the spot. After all the effort Xing's parents put into getting him back, they'd never risk tarnishing his record. He even gave Xingxiu a few hard smacks right in front of my parents to vent his anger. Choose little tiger bought for secure document protection and book searching, reliable, stable, and hassle-free. My dad mercilessly told them to get lost. 26. I reckon Xingxiu must have returned last year while still undergoing treatment. But why would he come back after his return? Why didn't he go straight to find Songzhen? If he hates me so much for supposedly causing Songzhen's death, why does he still call me the one he can't let go of? No amount of unanswered questions could outweigh my fear of him. I've finally built a new life, found new love, and got a fresh start. If he won't let me go, am I going to lose everything? No, I absolutely refuse. 27. Xingxiu kept texting me, asking to meet up and talk. What's left for us to discuss? Xingxiu seemed to read my mind. What I owe you, I'll repay eventually. I glanced at it, still no reply. My life, how could he ever repay that? Late at night, in that hazy state between sleep and wakefulness, I felt transported back to my past life. It was a meticulously chosen Western restaurant where Xingxiu, without warning, pulled out a ring, knelt on one knee, and proposed to me in front of everyone. That was the outcome I'd been desperately waiting for all these years. How could I possibly say no? After accepting Xingxiu's proposal, I cried so hard my makeup ran, forcing me to fix it in the restroom, only to accidentally overhear Xingxiu's conversation with someone else. Among the guests was a renowned physician recently recruited from abroad by Xingxiu's hospital. Xingxiu was vying for a spot in a hospital project and needed this doctor's endorsement. That's why he chose this restaurant frequented by the doctor to stage his marriage proposal. All to impress upon the physician that Xingxiu was a responsible and level-headed man. The dream I've waited for all these years, it's finally come true. Everything was driven by self-interest. Does Xingxiu really love me? In my past life, I was just fooling myself. At least he's willing to marry me and walk with me into the next chapter of life. But now, I'm with Jiangli. The love I receive now is truly different from the one-sided devotion of my past life. I know what true mutual love really means. 28. I agreed to meet Xingxiu. He wants redemption, and I'm giving him the chance. But on one condition, it has to be in another city. I've got cousins in that city who'll be shadowing us discreetly. They won't let me get shortchanged. It was one of those neon-lit nightclubs buzzing with energy. The long-lost Songzhen wore a skimpy mini dress, moving to the sultry beats of a K-pop routine on the dance floor. The lace trim of her lingerie peeked through with every move, drawing wolf whistles and cheers from the men around. After her performance, she flitted across the venue like a butterfly before settling onto the lap of a rich heir in the VIP booth. The wealthy playboy became her sugar daddy. She'd dropped out of school and quit selling vegetables. Now she's a bona fide kept woman, a pampered little rose. Xingxiu watched the scene with cold detachment. He recognized that spoiled rich kid, the same one who'd quarreled with Songzhen on the street before. Songzhen's radiant charm didn't just captivate Xingxiu, it ensnared that wealthy playboy too. Perhaps Songzhen's love for Xingxiu had been genuine at first. When exactly did it turn fake? I really wouldn't know. Xingxiu and I know each other far too well enough that I know exactly what to do. Could easily make him feel like being pierced by 1,000 arrows. Having lived 2 lifetimes, Xingxiu still couldn't keep his composure. He stepped forward with a liquor bottle in hand, yet the bottle struck Songzhen's face. 29. Before the police took Xingxiu away, he said to me, in our past life, Songzhen didn't commit suicide because of depression. She was pregnant and needed someone to be the father of her child. When the rich kid found out, he forced her to take the pills and staged the suicide scene. By the time I learned the truth, it was too late. I thought in this life we could start over, but you came back too. You fear me, and you hate me. I can see it in your eyes. No matter what happens in this lifetime, there's no future for us. Calm down. The debt I owe you, I'll repay with the rest of my life. I'm sorry. Turns out Xingxiu wasn't as clever as I'd imagined. As a psychiatrist, he actually fell for Songjin's act so easily. I really thought he truly loved Songjin. That's why he never minded her past or how she disappeared without a word back then. Never expected it to turn out like this. When it comes down to it, that unattainable little rose from our youth can be dangerously alluring. Tragically, Songjin was disfigured. The rich kid has money, but that doesn't mean he's willing to pay for Songjin's treatment. Song's parents are dead set on making Xingxiu serve time. Very well. They never deserved a bright future to begin with, Mr. and Mrs. Xing's hair turned white overnight, but it wasn't long before they got divorced. My dad said, old Xing has another family outside, with a child already 7 or 8 years old. The only reason we didn't divorce was because we valued Xingxiu so much, and just when Xingxiu finally recovered, he had to go and do something this stupid. My mom also said, Xing's mother was no saint either. To secure her future, she hired a young maid from the countryside to care for Xingxiu, who ended up pregnant. After Xingxiu recovered and left the hospital, his mother rushed back to force the maid into an abortion. After Xingxiu got arrested, the maid's impoverished family caused a scene at our old neighborhood, and that's how the scandal blew up. In my past life as Xingxiu's fiancé, I'd been completely in the dark about all this. No wonder Xingxiu lashed out at Songjin with such extreme, desperate fury. It must have been sheer despair that led to this. His family had always been plagued by too many unspeakable truths. Given a second chance at life, Xingxiu lost both the career he took pride in and the fame that once came effortlessly. Not only did his chronic illness relapse, but he also had to deal with that absurd, laughable mess of a family. How did he endure that period of cancer treatment? Was it because of the maid's unborn child? No amount of personal struggles can justify Xingxiu's despicable character in this lifetime. With me and Songjin gone from his sickbed, there's still that replacement made by his side. Every single one could be his pawn. Xingxiu isn't worthy of my love. He's even less deserving of loving me. 30. Another 3 years had passed. I was about to graduate as a senior, while Jiangli had already graduated and landed a job at a major tech company in Beijing. Jiangli called to check in with me. I've rented a place for us near your grad school. The neighborhood's full of charming hutongs and historic sites. You'll have the whole area to explore. My heart swelled with warmth. From studies to work, even down to food and fun, he's thought of everything for me. Jiangli, why are you so good to me? Jiangli chuckled wryly. You've been good to me too, always giving me new scarves and gloves every year. Even Xinyan chimed in. Compared to how he used to be all take and no give, Jiangli's practically worshipping you now. Then they added with a tinge of jealousy, even my boyfriend can't do that. Ouch, calm down. I want new scarves and gloves too. I need to go back to my hometown to get some materials for the postgraduate entrance exam. I got news about Xingxiu from my parents. He passed away. The leukemia had relapsed. Not even his closest family was by his side this time. I'd been given a fresh start in life. Reborn only to face second and third rounds of brutal chemotherapy. His reputation ruined. Betrayed by his beloved and abandoned by both parents. What a waste to die now. Such a pity. If only his suffering could have been worse. 31. Xingxiu's suicide note took over half a year to finally reach my family from his mother's hands. My parents believe that a dying man's words are truly sincere. I examined the envelope of the suicide note. It bore signs of having been opened and resealed. After repeating a year, I ended up at a university and major that weren't my first choice. I'm so worthless. I smiled and accepted it right in front of them, went downstairs and tossed it into the nearest trash can. Xinyan was waiting at the neighborhood gate in her new car, ready to take me to Hadaleo for hot pot. Chill. I kinda want to see that cute waiter do the subject 3 dance later. Do you think Brother Jiangli would mind? I'm in a great mood. Not at all. Here's something to make you even happier. Dinner's on me tonight. Xinyan gasped in amazement. What's the special occasion today? Hold your horses. Did you win the lottery? I said with a laugh. A lifelong dream finally came true. The best is yet to come. 32. After rebirth, I have 2 modest goals. 1. Wait for Xingxiu to die. 2. Make sure he dies far away. Only after all these years can such an ending be called truly fulfilling. Beyond the window. Sunshine bathed the world in warmth while birds sang amidst fragrant blossoms. In this life, I'm blessed with family, cherished friends, and a beloved partner. Together with them, I'll embark on life's next grand adventure.